And we are live. Welcome to Wealthy Wednesday. My name is Leah Garcia, financial professional, and I teach my proprietary system, a one-page financial plan known as the Wall of Wealth. And today on Wealthy Wednesday, I am so honored. I'm so fired up. I've been looking forward to this so much for our guest today. I know she's going to bring a ton of value. I've got my notepad ready and I'm ready to learn. I'm going to be a student. So she is the founder of Voices of Encouragement. She's also the host of the Women's Heart podcast, which is a wellness and lifestyle podcast. She is a lifestyle and confidence mindset coach. But really, when I think of her, she's a woman of faith and a woman of resilience. And truly, I know today she is going to bring the fire. We had an incredible backstage conversation. I should have recorded it. She dropped a ton of golden nuggets. So please give it up and give a warm round of applause for Miss Edna Howard.
Oh, thank you so much, Leah. I am so honored and privileged to be on your show. And thank you for asking me. And I cannot wait to jump into our conversation.
Absolutely. I just really believe that it's about the collaborations. They say a rising tide raises all boats, but only if your boat is in the water. And what I mean by that is you got to get dirty. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to come and be a willing participant, because people who just sit in the background don't always get all the juice out of the orange. And so what I love is that this collaboration is really authentic. I've learned so much from her. If you haven't seen her Women's Heart podcast, you got to check it out. There's so many incredible topics. And what I love, Edna, is that you really talk to, and when I was on your show, I really got this too. And I saw that you did it with everyone. It wasn't just me, but you really focus on the before. You really allow your guest to walk their journey through your audience. And I think that's so powerful because we all see the after, right? We're here now and we're a little more spit and polish, but we all had the before. We all had that messy time. My first video was about a year ago, and I did it reluctantly. My business partner took out a cell phone and he said, Leah, you've got to do a video. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I stood there and said, hi, my name is Leah Garcia, financial professional. And I mean, that's literally
that's how you started. That was your journey. Right.
And I leave it there because what? I want people to see we all start somewhere.
Right.
So help us, unpack this for me, Edna. Where did you come up with that concept? I mean, you do a lot of different things, a lot of different interviews. I mean, I don't think that my edification really did justice to the laundry list of things that you are involved with, and you do it all so well.
Oh,
What gave you the idea to talk about the before? Because I don't think that's very common.
I think because we're all works in progress, right? There's no one that I know of that I've talked with, and not even on the podcast show, but my girlfriends in my network, where they haven't had a before they met Edna moment, right? And what that looks like is before they met me, I was going through my own challenges, and I didn't even know what a podcast was. Wow. So, I mean, think about it. You start somewhere, and I always say you got to start somewhere. And I think drawn from like deep down in my faith allows me to continue to pivot like that forward. But just starting, that's what you have to do. Just put your foot out there and start walking, right? And what you find is you'll discover the journey is set with all of these wonderful milestones along the way. And I think too, Leah, I always feel like we're all diamonds in the rough, right? Yeah. At some point, you need to be polished, and sometimes hard things happen, seasons of your life, some trauma. It could be anything in your life, but you keep going. And I remember when I was younger in my 20s, I used to tell myself it could only get better, right? No matter what that looked like, better was coming. Better is coming for you. And so I still have that philosophy in life. My principles that I believe are that everything is a lesson. Right. Within the journey. And so you take the lessons and you help other people, you reach back And I also use it as an opportunity to encourage and motivate folks. What my story is might be able to encourage someone else to keep going.
Gosh, so much good stuff to unpack there. So oftentimes, so that's a very vulnerable place to be,
It
is
is.
being willing to expose our blind spots, be willing to expose the mess. One
Yeah.
of my, sometimes I do a podcast that's called the Motivational Monday.
Mhm.
And sometimes I do it from the garage because it's at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I
Wow.
don't always make it into the office.
Right, right,
But,
right.
and so I took a picture of the background, which was, I use a virtual background, but I took a
Right.
picture of just being out in the garage. I got the laptop stacked up on some
Yeah.
things, and I posted it, and I was amazed how many comments I got on that. People are like, "Wow, that's incredible! I
Wow.
love that you got this over there and this over here."
Yeah.
Listen, we can see this beautiful background, but there's all this other stuff, right? So that's
Right,
a
right.
really vulnerable place to be. So let me ask you, and
Yes.
I think that only comes from being willing to be vulnerable, only comes from knowing your worth.
It definitely does, but it also requires doing the work to know your worth.
Mm.
Because again, early on in my 20s, and I say maybe stumbling into my 30s, not really knowing my worth and my value of what I brought to the marketplace, because I wasn't confident enough. But through personal growth and really working on self and my faith, I just kept pushing. Like I said, can only get better. And so the pushing made me push through some challenges of becoming more confident, becoming more worthy of what I brought to the marketplace and understanding my value. And that takes you doing work. And sometimes it takes doing the deep work, right? And the deep work can really make you have to ask yourself those thought provoking questions, kind of like, what is it that I really want? Because a lot of times, people say, well, I don't want that. They know what they don't want, but they don't always know what they want.
Wow.
And so taking the time to figure out what I wanted made me see my value in the marketplace. And now I don't have a problem asking for the value of what, I'm worth, because I did the work. So I would encourage anybody that's listening or watching to do the work. Really take the time to step back, get off the treadmill for a minute, take the time and figure out what it is you truly want and what your worth is. And I always say, understand who you are and what you bring, right? And what that really means is understanding who you are as a person, because what you do doesn't equate to who you are. That's just what you do. And so don't get caught up in being stuck on, I do this thing and that makes me this, because that thing can be taken from you and then you still have to be standing in yourself. So figure out who you are, what your core values are, and then bring that to the marketplace, and then figure out what you want to bring. It's like, who am I now? What do I bring? Oh, I bring this and this. And one thing I teach my clients too, Leah, is to build a confidence resume, right? And I've learned to do that over the years. Everything wonderful that you ever did, I'm talking from the time you were young, small as a child. I mean, there's some awards you won, anything, because at some level you might need to read that one day and blow off the dust and build up your own confidence and encourage yourself. So that is where I come from, and I've learned to do that over the years, to encourage myself, to build that confidence resume and continue to build it. And, I hear naysayers and they say things and I just let it roll off my back. When I was early on in my 20s in the corporate space, I would get kind of caught up in my head, like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, they're telling me this, and, I get offended. Now it's just like, okay, that's your opinion. I appreciate it, but I'm gonna keep moving. Right.
Wow. I could just listen to you all day. Like, I feel like I don't even need to speak at all, but I love that, a confidence resume.
Yes,
Sometimes we have to dust off those old certificates and
we really
trophies
do.
and plaques. We
Yes.
might think that they are insignificant, but it's all building us up along the way. And at the same time, it's those blind spots too that we got to embrace. When there's a seed of a benefit in every adversity if we look for it. And it's not coming from, in my mind, being toxic positivity. I hear a lot of talk about that. It's not being fake. It's just looking for the lesson, being willing to be a student. And I love that you said, it's about the questions. Questions are the answers. And the biggest questions we can ask, the most thought-provoking questions we can ask are of ourselves, and really knowing what we want. So that's
Understanding
really,
what you want to, and not allowing the world, social media, friends, family, whoever it is, to put labels on you and put you in a box. Because I think I did a podcast on bust the box wide open. Just bust it open, because folks are so much inclined to put labels on people. We're still a work in progress, and we're going to keep moving. And it depends on what season you're in, what label is being put on you. But you got to learn how to wash the labels off. And I always say, reshape the way you tell your own story, and don't let anyone else tell you your story, and walk in that.
wow, that's so good. I love mic drops all along the way. There's sound bites all through this, and we're just a few minutes in. One of my good friends, Brenda Lisa Costa, she put it this way. She said, we as women are put in the box, but we got to bust through the box, jump on top of the box, and celebrate on top of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, Brenda Lisa, I love that. I'm going to steal your quote. I'm going to use it. I am going to absolutely give her credit for it. But pretty soon, it's going to become my own. And we have the incredible Lisa Vivek, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She said, I couldn't agree more, Leah. Love the positive mindset that Edna Howard has developed for herself and others. I completely agree, Lisa. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm glad you're getting value, because I've already got a whole page of notes here already. I love build that confidence resume. That's so good. We got to be willing sometimes to give ourselves that pat on the back.
We really do. It's what I call learn to encourage yourself. And it tells you that in the word. David encouraged himself. And so I really believe that is part of our journey, is to learn to encourage ourselves and not wait for someone to come. Because realistically, nobody's going to come and turn you on in the morning, right? You have to get up and get yourself up and get yourself ready to go and get yourself geared up for meetings and whatever it is you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or in corporate America, you're doing something, you're in the process. So no one's, other than your alarm clock, no one's going to come and say, get up and you need to do this and you look amazing. You got to tell yourself that. I mean, there are affirmations right on my mirror that I say every morning to myself. To keep me going and keep me positive and moving. And another thing I'll add to that is staying in a rhythm. Get yourself in a rhythm. Like it's hard when you try to work through your day without knowing exactly what you're going to do for the day. Have a rhythm. And you create that the night before. And I think that was instilled in me many, many years ago when I first started in the federal government, like in 1994, to have that rhythm every evening, to create something, a space to say, this is what I'm going to be doing in the morning. I'm going to hit the ground running. But you got to have a routine. That routine and that rhythm is what I think helps.
That is so key. I totally agree. Dr. Benjamin Hardy says, never end a day until it's finished on paper. Every single night, I reconcile my day. I put 3 wins, 3 things I can improve on. I do my 3 gratitudes. It's not some kind of a rote routine. I really look at that day and what happened, that detailed. It could be, sometimes a business partner, he'll make these smoothies. Maybe I had a wonderful smoothie that day, or it could be something, with my precious grandson. And then I put my top 3 priorities. We all have a long laundry list of things we need to get done, but I put the top 3 that are like, have to, no matter what, before I'm done, these things got to get done. So I love having that, setting your day up in advance. That is so, so key.
It helps so much. And I remember too, Leah, there was a friend of mine who said she does what's the most important thing to do, right? Because we are going to have all these priorities, but now you got to prioritize the priority. So what does that look like? And what are the top 3 things you need to get done throughout that day?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on something. I want to rewind a little bit, Edna, because I think this is something that I know I struggled with this, and I think it's something that could resonate with a lot of women. How do we begin to really give ourselves those accolades? How do we really begin? Maybe if our self-esteem really isn't quite there, and we've had a lot of people pour some of their own disbelief and their, limiting mindset and stuff, and maybe we think that we don't look good enough, or, we got this weight and that. Where do we begin to start that process of starting those positive affirmations and really embracing we all have something that we're good at. We all have something that is beautiful about us. So
Right.
if someone's really struggling with that, where could they begin?
I think for me, and I can only tell you my story where I began. I began with listening to motivational, at that time, tapes. uh, Speakers like Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, those people that are already, they have went through a challenge themselves, and now they're reaching back and helping us figure out our stuff. And it really did start with that. I can tell you a real quick story. My mother-in-law was listening to Les Brown, and she was listening to his tapes, like when they had putting it in the tape recorder. And she shared a couple with me and my husband, and I just listened to his tapes like every day. He was funny, he was real, and he was a work in progress. And he talked about, your mindset and how you have to think and that kind of thing. So that really got me started. So for anyone that's out there that doesn't know where to start with all those podcasts that are out there. I always say Mel Robbins too. She's pretty awesome. She's a matter of fact type person, and she shares a lot of great gold nuggets on how to get motivated and moving. So start there, and then the books you read. Now I'm going to go through the motivational channels because I teach this in one of my workshops, the Confidence Blueprint, where you have different channels that you need to start with. You start with the books, you start with podcasts, you start with the list of your own affirmations that you want to write out. And I don't say overdo it and write 25 affirmations. Write down 3 affirmations that really resonate with you. And really put that on your mirror, put it in the kitchen, put it in your car, put it wherever you can see it every day. Read it to yourself often. Get it in your spirit. The other thing is using spiritual affirmations such as scripture. I use scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is he who lives in me than he who lives in the world. There is so many ways you can create affirmation. It could be spiritual affirmation. It could be an affirmation just to encourage yourself. I am powerful beyond measure. There's so many out there. So starting there, I would say start first with listening. Start also with the mindset of affirmations, because sometimes you have to trick your mind into believing it. And what that means is repetition and saying it over and over and over again to yourself. Your subconscious doesn't know what's real. So if you're telling it as you're sleeping, right before you go to sleep, say it to yourself. I do that. I say the thing to myself, the affirmation to myself, and fall asleep and feeling like, wow. Waking up feeling like, wow. So that can be part of it. The other thing is, who you are surrounding yourself with. That's very important. I call it your tribe. You have to have 3 categories of women or people in your life. I say the excited, the motivated, and the inspired. And the grateful. That's a bonus. Having those buckets and categories in your life of people that can pour into you will help you begin to pour into yourself.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so fire. I am so elated right now. We have a LinkedIn user. I'm not sure who you are. It says, love me some Wealthy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. If I can't see your name, but go ahead and type it in the chat. We'd love to give you a shout out. So, it's so true that who we surround ourselves with, but I love the way that you put this, because we have to have a filter. Like, what are we looking for? Right? We've all heard, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. But at the same time, it's about the people that we want around us. So now if we know who we're looking for, it's a law of attraction. Those people will start to appear, or you will start to see those attributes of the people that you're surrounding yourself with that maybe you were not really aware of, and you can really highlight that and really benefit from that. Iron sharpens iron. So, but I say it destroys butter. So we don't have no butter around here. We're iron. We're bringing our A game.
That's right.
I want to ask you some a little more serious questions, though, if I could. because we talk a lot about resilience, and truly the reason I really wanted you on here was to really, when I heard your story and all these amazing accomplishments, all the value you're bringing, I really wanted you to highlight some of your resilience. And so I want to know, and how does adopting a resilient mindset affect your approach to financial and setbacks or challenges?
That's a really good question, Leah. I think first of all, I think it enables us to bounce back. It enables me to bounce back quicker. Learning from that mindset and adapting any strategies around it. I call it bounce back ability, BBA. So really adopting a resilience mindset is fundamental to your transformation to face any financial setbacks. Because any challenges that you see that are coming for the forefront, you're already resilient. Now, you might have gone through a challenge of, you might have been devastated financially or whatever. You bounce back, you pivot, right? And it gets better. Like when you're in your 20s, you're doing whatever. And as you get into your 30s and 40s and 50s, you begin to find a wisdom around yourself in terms of being resilient enough, how you manage your money, and keeping that is it's basically the way I look at it. It's a rather than seeing them as obstacles, a resilient mindset can help you view your setbacks as temporary hurdles and opportunities for growth. That's what I want to say.
That is so good. So, and I love the visual of bounce back. I really love that visual. So let me ask you then, but when you're in it, it's difficult. It's easy to say when we come out the other side, oh, just bounce back, stay positive, read some books, watch Mel Robbins, listen, Lisa Nichols is amazing. She'll tell you great stories, make you laugh. I mean, you listen to Lisa Nichols' story and she tells her story now.
Right.
And we can laugh about it and stuff. And she tells it in a wonderful, beautiful, eloquent way.
Right.
But at that moment, like when you have the lights cut off, when your bank account is negative, when you have people coming at you and, trying to steal your dream, what is the thing that they could do or hold on to in that moment?
For me, it's my faith. I mean, having struggles financially over the course of seasons of my life, it's always been my faith. I always go back to what I know, and I know that God will provide provisions and resources. And so, but the belief, you got to have the belief that is coming. So I stay on my knees. I mean, it's through prayer for me. It always has been. That's the core of who I am. Just my faith in general across the board. And I would tell anybody that, if you're struggling, I always say go in prayer. I would tell women that who are struggling financially, and then also if they're struggling in a corporate environment, I always say pray for the person because it takes your relationship to a spiritual level. Well, when you're looking at finances and you want to take it to a spiritual level, then you need to pray. And you need to ask for guidance on what to do and for God to send you someone who can help you understand, like you, Leah, who can help you understand what that house looks like to build a financial house that's strong. So it's for me, it's prayer.
Wow. It's so true. And it's, I've used this quote often, but it always comes to my mind when I think about that is Miles Monroe, the late great Miles Monroe. He said that vision is a function, but the sight is a function of the eyes, but vision is a function of the heart.
It's real.
And nobody can see what's in our heart.
That's right.
They can see what's outside of us, the exterior, where we came from and who our parents are, but they can't see the heart of a champion. And they don't know what's truly inside you. Only you know what your vision is. So I love that you said that. And, God put it there. If you have a vision, it's the inspiration. It's that divine download. And so if that vision's in you, you are meant to fulfill it.
And no one can take it from you. I mean, even if the lights did get turned off, then you pray in the dark, right? Because the lights could get turned on the next day and things do get better. It really does. It does get better. And if you continue to tell yourself that, Your positive self-talk can push you that forward. But realistically too, I know I talk a lot about affirmations and positive self-talk, but the human side of us wants to immediately just kind of throw up our hands and say, you know what, oh my gosh, what's happening? But a lot of times you really have to know that you're in that dark place so that God can shine the light on something you need to shift, change, or think differently. Right?
Wow. And I always think of this too. We don't know who's watching us, but
That's
somebody
right.
is always watching you, no matter where you feel that you are in that book. We're all in different chapters, we're in the same book. No
Right.
matter where you feel that you are or how much success you feel that you have or haven't had, you are inspiring, you're an inspiration to someone. Someone
Mm-hmm.
is looking up to you. And we have to remember that it's a huge responsibility. What does Spider-Man say? With great power comes great
That's
responsibility.
real. That is so real.
Yeah. So tell me now, in what ways can a resilient mindset contribute to long-term financial success and stability?
That is a really good question. I think that for me, I would look at it in three ways. First of all, a resilient mindset is crucial. It's an asset. It can help you achieve long-term financial success. But there are three ways you can look at it. The first one is it can foster adaptability, allowing us to pivot and adjust our financial strategies and our responses, right? And number two is you want to be able to promote perseverance. So helping us to really stay committed to our financial goals, even in the face of setbacks and obstacles, right? And number three, the last one is really to just help us enhance our emotional resilience. Um,
Mm,
what I think too sometimes is we make decisions out of fear driven. It's fear driven, right? And then we end up making the wrong decision because we're making it out of fear. So being able to enhance that emotional resilience, it really enables us to maintain a healthy perspective on money and avoid impulsive, fear driven financial decisions.
wow, that's so, so good. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change.
Dr. Dwayne Dwyer, I love him.
I did this little spiel about the power of the penny. We did a money minute about the power of the penny.
Yeah.
And do you know if you took a penny and you doubled it every single day for a year, you would have $68,719,476.74.
Wow.
And I was walking today out of the gym when I was leaving out of the gym, and
Mhm.
the lady was cleaning up, and she goes, "Oh, I found a penny," and she was pretty excited. She's a grown woman. She's like, "I found a penny." I said, "That's great, because do you realize that penny has a potential of over $68 million in the next 12 months?" She said, "Oh,
Wow.
it does?" I said, "Yeah." And now you'll never look at a penny again the same way. Willie. So she was even more excited.
That
But
is so real.
yeah, oftentimes we're given these gifts,
Mhm.
right? We're praying for the wisdom, we're praying for guidance, we're praying for a miracle, but then
Mhm.
God puts a penny in our path and we just slough it off because it's just a penny.
Right.
We don't know what that penny has a potential to be $68 million,
It
right?
always said, don't despise small beginnings. Small
Right.
beginnings, a penny. Your business could start off with a penny. Just what you just said, how it compounds over the years and keeps saving. Um, it can make a difference. It makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, we're talking so much about resilience, and this is really what gravitated me towards you. I really think
Mhm.
that this is a divine connection because you've inspired me in a lot of ways. Your story is truly inspirational, and it's truly a story of resilience. And I love that you share it because I think oftentimes it's easy for us to look at something we think people are going to judge us for.
Yeah.
We've all made mistakes. Thank goodness there hasn't been social media when I was a child. That's a lot
Me too.
scarier, right?
I
So
probably wouldn't even be on it. I was like,
that's
God.
right. That's right.
But I was always against the grain. I was always the one that was going to do something different. You tell me to do that, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could go back as far as being young and just trying to navigate all of that. I had my son very young. I had him when I was in 16, and
Wow.
so with that said, my mom said to me, I can make this decision for you, but I'm gonna let you make the decision yourself. But whatever decision you make, I'll stand behind you 150%.
Wow.
And so she never let up on that. She helped me get into the federal government. She told me what to do. She said, because she was in the federal government, she said, look, why don't you go up to DC and take that's at that time you went to take the federal government exam, the
Right.
civil service exam. So I did. And I didn't pass it the first time. And so she said, you go back. So my mom was really wanted that. She was pushing me always, because first I finished high school. There was no question that I was going to finish, because she was like, oh, okay, well, this is happening. The whole neighborhood rallied around me and helped me with raising my son. So she said, okay, you've graduated. It's time to get a real job, not go to the retail store, work at McDonald's. You really need a real job. So I said, okay. So I went and took the test again, and I passed it. She knew the results before I even got back home, because I was still coming from DC. And at that time I was taking the Greyhound bus. And so I got home and she said, you passed the test. Go ahead and pack your stuff up. You're going up to DC and you're going to go stay with your sister. And there was no question. And Leah, when I jumped on that bus, that was the best decision I ever made, to get on that bus and go work for the federal government. I stayed with the federal government for 11 years, figured out that I was smart, and decided to go back to school to get an information technology degree. So I did. So I pivoted again. I got out of the federal government, got the degree, and went into the commercial side. And on the commercial side, I worked for companies such as Citibank, ExxonMobil, Booz Allen, you name it, the top companies. And what I realized was that resilience started very early on, whereas a lot of times my story has been different. Without the resilience, without the bounce back ability, without the pivot mentality. But because I had a mom who was really like, I'm going to let you make this decision for yourself. And from that point on, even though I was very young, I had to make the decision that worked for my heart. And so I did. And from there, I just always drew from that. I said, if you could get on the bus and come to DC and find your way through DC and get a job and navigate the landscape, and not just get a job, but get the job, like working at the Smithsonian Institute and then working at FEMA. Then from there, I went to the Department of Education. I worked in the General Counsel. I worked for the Office of the Secretary. And what I found was the presence of God was with me wherever I went. And I always believed that I could do anything. And so from that belief, I was able to project from office to office without looking for a promotion. People were coming to me. They said, hey, we noticed your work. We really think that you could work well up in this office. Why don't you come over here? And so before I left the Department of Education, I was working for the National Education Goals Panel, which is an arm of the Department of Education. And from there, I went to the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. And from there, again, it was just like being positioned. God was positioning me all along the way. And in my 1996, Leah, that's where I pivoted and went out and decided that I was going to go back to school, and I did, and got in that commercial side, and the rest is history, really. I mean, I became an entrepreneur, but I always remembered everything that I did built up to the moment that I was able to step out as an entrepreneur. I have about 30 years of corporate experience under my belt, and also government contracting. So I look at that as a way to be able to pour into other people now. So many people come to me for advice about different ways to navigate the landscape in different environments. And I'm just grateful that my story is my story. And I can't turn around and take that back. Oh, I wish I would have did this. Everything that happened was necessary. It had to happen for me to be where I am right now.
Yeah. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There could have been a lot of shame, a lot of judgment that you could have put on yourself, that you could receive from other people and allow it to stick to you.
Yeah.
But your mom was genius. Your mom, I don't know if she's still living, but
she's passed on to glory. But I never forget, even though she made me mad at times, that I would always go back to the blessing of the way she covered me, her and my grandmother, in my neighborhood. I say everybody in my neighborhood, when the young ladies found out that I was pregnant, I had several neighbors come to me and said, okay, you're keeping the baby, so we're going to help you, we're going to be babysitters. And I mean, they didn't go back on their word. They were helpful. I finished high school. I did everything in my my power to make sure that I was going to shift to the next level, because in my head, that was not going to stop me. That was just going to propel me.
Wow. See, that just brings back Cassandra Terry, the voice within wins, and she's got a new book, Soar, and she's talking about the 4 P's, propel. So I got to give her a shout out, because that just stood right out to me.
I love that.
And your mom, she set expectations, but she set standards. Mm-hmm. Like there wasn't a negotiation. She's just like, this is what's going to happen. You're gonna keep the baby. Okay. Well, you're graduating high school, so you better figure it out.
Right. Check. Right. So that was, and I know it sounds like, I pivot, but I did struggle with my confidence. I did struggle with shame. I struggled with all of those things that you struggle with when you come up and bubble up in society as a 16-year-old with a baby, right? Mm-hmm. So you do struggle with that, but because of me wanting to get better and to think about myself better and to bring my full authentic self to the picture, it was a self-healing on the inside to continue to, climb and go and be and move and do the things I had to do in life. And part of that, I can't leave that part of my story out, Leah, because that's who I am, and I always say my son was, he was the wind beneath my wings that made me propel to work even harder.
You used him as your inspiration instead of your excuse, because a lot of times those challenges could come to people and they could say, well, I could have graduated high school, but, I'm a mom. I could have went to this and get a government job, but, I'm a mom. And you didn't use that as an excuse. You used that as your inspiration. Mm-hmm. And I think that's gold. It truly is. And that's why you're so inspirational. And because you're willing to share that. For me, after 19 years of marriage, I was going through a divorce, and I put that shame on myself. I didn't tell people about it.
We don't want them to know. Yeah.
We don't want people to know. I started working in a different area, so people there didn't know me. And then I realized that the people who were going to judge me and not want to be associated with me were going to be that whoever they were, right? Mm-hmm. And once I just accepted that, that's when I started to have success, because that's when truly your mess can become our message. And what I realized is that I wasn't the only one.
Right. That's real.
I'm not the only one. There are a lot of women who've gone through something, or maybe their spouse passed away, and now they find themselves head of the household, having to reinvent themselves, later in life and find a career. So when I was willing to understand that, I think that's when we can inspire people.
I think so. When you are able to authentically stand in your truth, resolute in your truth, who you are, and not apologize. You don't owe anybody any explanation for the challenges you had and overcame. And being in that arena, it's like getting in the arena. There are other challenges along the way, but you learn how to pivot and navigate that. And if you can overcome one thing, you can overcome the next, and you can overcome the next and the next and the next. And so you just keep stepping in it. And that's what you did.
Yeah. I'm really curious, as a young mom, doing all that you did. I mean, you were really in corporate when there probably were not a lot of women in those positions, and probably not women of color in those positions.
That's a good one.
And as young as you were at this time. So I'm really, really curious if you ever struggled with or felt like what they call imposter syndrome. You're here in this room, in this boardroom, you're probably a presenter, a speaker, you're a boss of people who are older than you. Mm-hmm. And now, would you ever question, like, gosh, how did I get here? Wait till, if they really figure out who I am, they're going to.
Right. What was she been up to? No, I did. I struggled with that as well. But at the time, in my 20s, I didn't know what that was. I don't even think we coined the phrase until maybe later in the season of my life, where I started hearing this imposter syndrome. I was like, well, maybe that's what I was feeling. But I think through great mentors and people who were kind, like really kind, I have had some really kind supervisors. Now, keep in mind, I've been in corporate and the government for over 30 years, right? So I can count on my fingers the bad bosses, and there weren't many. But I have had some really amazing people that were pouring into me, and they were always like guiding me and showing me the ropes and that kind of thing.
Wow.
And even though they were showing me the ropes, I still really did struggle with my confidence in my personal persona, which meant I saw myself one way, they saw me as another way. Like, because I always, when I went into the federal space and I started working first at the Department of Education, I started working for Schedule Cs, which means those are the president appointed folks. So you had to be on your P's and Q's to do that. So I was always extremely professional. But I always had people would guide me and show me like the next, and then open doors. And I think through those open doors, I realized people were seeing me for who I truly was in terms of that executive level presence, all of that. But because I struggled on the inside internally, I was very humble. I didn't always accept that was what other people saw. But as I grew older and as I grew more wise and as I did the work and I did the self work and the seasons started to change and I began to see myself like other people saw me from that perspective. So I stayed there. I said, this is what they're seeing without being too braggadocious, but this is what other people are seeing in you. And you need to see that in yourself. So that's where the self-talk started to shift and started to change. It's kind of like that be, do, have,
Right.
the output is the have, but you got to be it first and then do the things to get you there, which is the work. And then you can have those things.
Wow, that's so good. I could just see you as this young woman, just I could truly, as you were talking, I could really just visualize that you just went in faith. Even though
I really did. Yeah.
you just went in faith and you were so blessed to have people who were willing to pour into you. I think that's very unusual in the corporate world, especially at that time.
Yeah.
To have somebody who would be willing, because a lot of times people look at it in the corporate world, you might take their job, so they don't want to build you up.
Right. But I think the support system started in the federal space, and I have to say that federal government has changed a lot since I was in it years ago. I took 11 years of my life in the federal space, and it was one of the most wonderful springboards that anyone could ever put me on. My mom put me on that track. I never even thought about it. I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. But once I passed that test, I was out there. And the funny thing about it, Leah, is I knew nothing about DC, but I was catching the train and I was getting lost and I was getting on the bus and I didn't know where I was going. And my grandmother would say, I have never seen somebody have no idea where they're going and figure it out. I just figured out why I'm on the bus. I'm like,
oh my gosh, I love that so much. So now my kids are older. My youngest is 31 and my grandson's 5, but we're talking about the scenic route. I got lost all the time with my ex-husband was working all the time, so I was the one taking the kids around a lot, and we get lost. But I never called it getting lost. We're just taking a scenic route. Look, I want you to see this over here, right? Make a little adventure. So I resonate with getting lost. I know how to get lost pretty good at that. Actually, gotten not so good at it in my older years. But
who wants to get lost at that point, right? You want to be found at that point. I do think I chuckle to myself because I remember her saying that to me, and I didn't even think anything about it, right?
Right.
Even walking around DC, I had no car, so that meant you had to catch the public transportation. And what that looked like for me was this was normal. It's like, okay, this is what you got to do, and this is how you're going to get to work. So you need to find your way. What is it that you're doing, and then figure it out. And I think that's what it is. Most things for everyone is figure outable. You just have to believe that it is, right? You can figure it out. Like step back and start to think about, okay, what is the route? Where do I have to go? And because my first job was really working at the Smithsonian Institute personnel shop.
Wow.
So the personnel shop is located right by LaFont Plaza, like right as you're coming up the ramp or the steps of the subway. And so that to me, and every time I ride past now, I just feel like, wow, that was where it all started. That's where it all started.
That's amazing. Yeah, my mentor always tells me there's always a way,
It
right? You
is.
might have to go under, over, around. Sometimes you go through, sometimes you got to get some stair steps, but there's always a way. So I
Always.
love that. Everything's figure outable.
It is.
So how about, Edna, share with us, like, in what ways does a resilient mindset influence your attitudes and behaviors towards money management and investment opportunities?
I think for me, I used to be really risk adverse about, taking my money and putting it in different places and making it grow and all of that. But I think the resiliency allows me to really have a higher tolerance for any financial risk right now.
Mm,
But that took time. And then also keeping that long term perspective, having a perspective around it, and adaptability, just
all
being
right.
adaptable with it. You really foster that adaptability in financial decision making when you have that resilience.
Yeah, that's so good. So I'm really curious, Edna. I mean, you're a woman of faith, you're a woman of tremendous accomplishments. How have you remained humble during, during all of this success that you've had? What really helps to keep you, who helps to keep you humble? What does that look like in Edna's world?
I think who helps to keep me humble is my family. Because they remind you, okay, remember when. And I just kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, I need to stay in that headspace. And I always believe everybody started somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
so what keeps me humble is really just looking at it from the beginning and saying, okay, look how far you've come. Look how far God has brought you. Now you're blessed to be a blessing. That's the other thing. I don't stop at just being blessed. It's like, who can I bless?
Right.
Part of the story, the whole story really is I've blessed you, God's in my spirit. He's blessed me with so much that I have to. It's almost like a call on my life to bless others, which is why I got into the coaching space, which is why I got into mindset coaching to help other people be able to navigate the landscape. So I think what keeps me humble is being able to look back from the beginning, from where I started, very humble beginnings. And remember, humble beginnings are okay because you got to start somewhere. And
Right.
that's what it does. Memories of how far I've come and just how grateful I am for what I've been given and being able to give back now so much. Like, even from my giving perspective, it's like, how can I double my giving? When you make more, you should be able to give more. You should be able to help more people. So I really believe that in my core.
Absolutely. One of my mentors, she said, anyone who thinks that money is important has never given it away. You know,
That's true. That's true. And if you have it and it's in your power to help someone, why not? And I always say it starts with family first, and then it starts with everybody else. Now, I tied with my church because that is what I have always done. But then it's family, and then it's everybody else. Who else needs help? And it's not just with your money, Leah, you know this. It's with
right.
your time and your talent.
That's right.
I've gone into the shelter to help women with their image in terms of, kind of walk the walk. What do you look like? What are you putting on your face? Because I was American sales director too. I've had an entrepreneurial journey. And so with that, even when I was driving a car for Mary Kay and I was picking up women who were and my husband was like, be careful. But I was like, no, I was blessed. I was picking up women who had children who were at the bus stop, because remember, I didn't have a car when I was in DC.
Right.
So me being able to do everything I could along the way as I got blessed, and then going into the shelter again, being able to work with the women in the shelter on image and doing facials and pampering them and that kind of thing. So giving back that way, and then also going into these underserved communities and teaching workshops for free. Empowering women that way. So I use every gift that God has given me that I can to give back as much as I can.
Oh, God, that's so good. So it makes me think of, I heard this quote that says, be the person you needed when you were your younger self.
Yeah, I
And
love
when
that.
we go back and we can help those people, that maybe that's that younger mom, or
Mhm.
maybe, somebody that's going through a divorce, to me, it's very cathartic. It's very healing. It
Yeah.
feels so good because we knew that's what we needed. we know exactly what we needed, the words that we needed to hear. Maybe maybe it is just a little makeup, but gosh, could feel a
Right.
little bit better about yourself, and getting a nice scarf and some nice earrings can just go such a long way to helping that self-esteem and boosting that confidence a little bit. And you know what? We all need a little grace.
We do. We do. So just having the heart to serve. I think God placed in me years ago a servant's heart, and it's always been like that. It's never changed.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You've accomplished so much. You have so many things under your belt here. What does it look like to coach with you? Somebody, give us a story of somebody, a success story, somebody that you really helped. I know you've got many, but maybe you can highlight one particular situation.
Oh wow, that's hard because there's so many, like you said. But I would say maybe the one of the coaching clients that I had was she's in post retirement. And she was going through some challenges herself, trying to get her finances together, trying to organize, trying to figure out what it was that next that God had for her. And I was able to get her in a good headspace that was sustainable for her to walk in her power, figure out her next move. And she felt like, and she put a testimonial out on the website, and I have it. And I was like, wow, that's so great. I'm so glad that I was able to pour into you and encourage you and lift you up to help you make the next step, using tools like vision boarding, right?
Right.
Also goal setting, working through the goal setting, and something I call bridge the gap. I teach that technique. It's a small technique, but it's powerful. And people, because sometimes we get overwhelmed. She was getting overwhelmed with everything she had to do, and post retirement, all of that, all those feelings that come along with it. I helped her manage all of that and work through it. And I told her, I said, you need to be looking down so you can move the pieces of where you want your life to be now, instead of looking up, feeling like things are coming down on you. And so the bridge the gap helps you. It shows you write your goal, and it's 3 steps. What are the steps you need to do from going from 0 to finish? What does that look like? So you do that with each individual goal. And I taught her that technique, and she still uses it to this day. So to see her be transformed and be walking in her power right now. And I see her all the time because she goes to my church as well. And I just feel like that was one of the testimonials that I really felt like I really helped her. She said, I really helped her get her thought process together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is transformational.
Yeah.
And you really can't quantify the feeling. I mean, obviously, she's going to compensate you financially, but it's that gift of what you're seeing, watching that flower just bloom and blossom. And now she's going to take those tools, and she's going to take herself and take her future to that whole next level.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's got to be such a tremendous feeling.
And she's using the confidence resume, because I also teach that technique. I think part of it, and one of the things she said in her testimonial, it was a live testimonial, because we had breakfast one morning and she was talking about how it was helping her and doing all this. I said, let's tape it right now. So it was nothing planned. It was impromptu. And she said at the end of her testimonial, she said, this will be the best money you ever spent on yourself. If you ever put money aside and budgeted for personal development, this is the program to be in. And she said that, and I was like, wow.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding. I love that. And that's the same way I feel when I help a family. I always start with the beginning, with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So I talk about their living trust, and then we reverse engineer what that's going to look like to get them there. And recently I helped a family put together their living trust. Now, they were struggling to get through it because they had a lot of different family dynamics. But now, it's getting close to being completed. And you can just look at their sense of self-satisfaction, like, wow, I actually did this. And it's just so gratifying to be a part of that process. So that resonates with me so much. So we're kind of winding down here, getting close to the top of the hour. Sure. Tell us, what does Edna Howard coming into 2024 and beyond? What does that future look like? I don't know what else you could still have left to accomplish, but obviously there's always a next level. So what does this next year and beyond look like for the amazing Edna Howard?
I love that. Thank you for saying that. That's so funny. Right now, I really am looking at getting a course work out on the, it's a platform called Zenler, and they are going to help me create a space for self-paced downloadable courses or workshops for women who want to do it on their own time. And I'm actually using that space to motivate folks through my book, Mindset Reset. And so I've been teaching a webinar for years around it. I've been, signing the books, giving them out, and really working out of that book. And everything that I talked about, bounce back ability, confidence resume, affirmations, all of that is in that book. And so I am going to create a course and start to do the workshops that way. Also, I'm an Alignable. Not a lot of people know about Alignable, but I'm a Alignable ambassador. And so I'm doing once a month. If you're in the area in Sterling, Virginia, or Loudon in this area, we are meeting every fourth Thursday of the month. Just meetups and network. Talk to new people, connect with folks, get in a safe space to be able to share your story, and just, work with other business owners. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, or you're just someone in corporate who has a side hustle, come on out. So I'm doing that, and then just waiting for what else God's whispering in my spirit to do.
That's incredible. I think so oftentimes as entrepreneurs, people can get really tunnel vision to think, okay, you got to buy my book, you got to buy my course, you got to buy my thing.
Right.
But we forget that, we're all people. And sometimes it's finding somebody who's maybe gifted in gratitude and they teach you about gratitude, or sometimes maybe you just need someone to call up and talk to, because listen, if they're not an entrepreneur, we think differently. A lot of my friends and family think I'm weird, and I think it's great. Right? They don't get me.
They don't get you. That's right. That's not your tribe.
That's right. So we need the people that think like we do, that we can have as our friends, and just those soft shoulders to land when we need that moment. We've got an amazing shout out. Gosh, I'm so humbled to read this by Lisa Febeck. Oh my goodness. She said, the universe puts you where you need to be for the message you need to hear, ... such as a powerful conversation. Thank you, Leah Garcia and Edna Howard. Isn't that so beautiful? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. We receive that. We're just our humble servants here. And really, this Wealthy Wednesday it was a divine download. I never intended to do any of this. I was trying to do a LinkedIn audio room is what my intention was, and kind of got pushed into doing this as a video. And now Edna's streaming us here on Facebook and YouTube. And sometimes we plan and God laughs. He has something bigger. We're too limited in our thinking, right? And truly, I do this to bring value, to highlight incredible people who can talk about wealth, because wealth is so many different things. It's not just about the dollars we put in and invest and save. It's about how we invest and give to one another. Thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity to share with you. It is my honor and privilege to be able to bring some value today. Well, that's it for our Wealthy Wednesday. I know this is going to be one that is going to be watched many, many times over. My name is Leah Garcia, financial professional, and I'd love to share with you my one-page financial plan, the Wall of Wealth. It is my proprietary system to help you kind of see where you are and where you want to go, and if you're on track. So we'll see you all at the top, because we all know it's way too crowded at the bottom.
Excellent. Love that.